Bagels feel like a safe, classic breakfast, soft, doughy, filling. But what many seniors don't realize is that popular bagel brands often hide high sodium, preservatives, and unhealthy oils that can spike blood pressure and strain kidneys. Some stores cut corners in baking or storage, betraying your trust. Today, we reveal 9 bagel brands to avoid, and 2 that are actually safe. Starting off with number 9, Einstein Bros Bagels. You open the bag. Steam rises. For a second you think, nice. Then you read the label and the math hits. One plain or everything bagel from a chain can carry half a day's worth of sodium or more. And once you know that, the warm smell gets weird fast. Einstein Bros is a familiar one. Airports, malls, college campuses, its logo is everywhere. That ubiquity gives people comfort, but comfort breeds trust, and trust makes it easy to miss the numbers. Einstein's menu shows plain bagels with sodium in the 500 to 600 milligram range, and some flavored or cheese-topped options climb even higher. In practical terms, one standard bagel can represent roughly 20 to 30% of the FDA/Dietary Guidelines daily sodium cap of 2,300 milligrams. For older adults who need a lower daily limit, say 1,500 milligrams recommended by many heart groups, one bagel can be a third to nearly half of their whole day's sodium allowance. That's the nutrition angle. Now, the handling angle. Local health inspectors have flagged at least one Einstein Bros location for food safety failures, including mold found on stored fruit in a walk-in cooler back in Gwinnett County, Georgia. That inspection forced a follow-up visit and public reporting. Mold on produce suggests storage breakdowns, which matters because a senior buying a fresh bagel is also buying whatever conditions the store is maintaining behind the counter. Imagine a breakfast that doubles as a sodium bomb and a storage gamble. If you take medication for blood pressure or kidney issues, a single high-sodium bagel can blunt how those meds work and raise your readings for hours. The numbers on the menu aren't just decimals, they change clinic visits. What else to watch for at Einstein's? Flavored bagels and sweet varieties. Those carry added sugars and oils in their ingredient lists or as toppings. Flavored bagels are still bagels. Same size, more sugar and additives. That can be a problem if someone grabs a cinnamon sugar bagel thinking it's just a treat. The calorie and sugar jump can affect blood sugar for anyone on diabetes meds. Do you pick flavored bagels because they taste like a treat or because the plain ones feel too boring? Drop your weirdest bagel topping below. We want receipts. Einstein Bros can feel like the safe choice because it's everywhere. But everywhere doesn't mean safe for someone who needs to watch sodium, sugar, or food handling closely. Don't confuse a warm counter with a clean one. Next, a chain that once bragged fresh and now has a string of health citations that will make you rethink the word wholesome. Coming in at number 8, we have Bruegger's Bagels. Picture a small corner shop with a row of glossy bagels under heat lamps. It looks artisanal. It smells like comfort. Then a county health inspector walks in and posts a notice. All operations halted until violations are fixed. That happened this summer to a Bruegger's in Rochester. Mouse droppings, fruit flies, and sanitation failures led public health officials to shut it down. When a place that sells fresh bread gets that kind of notice, it's not just an isolated failure. It's the visible sign that storage and pest control weren't working. For seniors, pest issues are a red flag. Bruegger's public nutrition sheets show flavored bagels, blueberry, cinnamon sugar, etc., with added sugars and oils in the ingredient lists. Their nutrition charts list sodium values that commonly land in the 500 to 600 milligram range for many bagels, while sweet-topped options add sugar and sometimes glycerol or palm oil to preserve texture and sweetness. That combination of salt, sugar, and preservatives is exactly what older adults trying to manage blood pressure or diabetes should watch for. Imagine handing that bagel to someone who takes blood pressure meds every morning. They think they're doing the safe thing, coffee and a bagel, while the bagel quietly pushes their sodium up. A single bagel with 600 milligrams sodium is the dietary equivalent of an unexpected thunderstorm. Bruegger's also has a safety history you should know about. Beyond store-level closures, the company as a whole has faced worker safety citations from OSHA after incidents like carbon monoxide exposure at a production site, which shows failures are not always limited to one franchise. Those workplace safety events don't directly equal food safety failures, but they do show a pattern where maintenance and protocol lapses can appear across systems. And systems are what keep bread safe from proofing to packaging. Would you forgive a favorite local bagel spot if it got a health shutdown once? Or is that a trust breaker you never get past? Tell us a boundary. Bruegger's can still make a great bagel on a good day, but when health departments start shutting kitchens, That great day is a gamble. If crumbs on the counter matter more than flavor, this brand needs a hard look. Next up, a place that used to pride itself on fresh dough but is moving the baking off-site. And that shift changes everything. Now, at number 7, we have Panera Bread Bagels. Start with the brand image. Fresh bakery on the storefront. Panera built a reputation on warm bread and visible bakers. That image is valuable. It also makes it easy to forget to read the fine print when you choose a bagel for someone who needs lower sodium and fewer additives. Here's the hard fact. Panera has been moving away from in-cafe scratch baking toward a model that uses partially baked or frozen dough supplied by third-party bakeries. In mid-2025, the company announced a shift that will close some fresh dough facilities and phase in par-baked/frozen goods so kitchens can finish baking in the cafes. That means a product that looks fresh could be largely prepared off-site, then thawed and finished inside the store. For people who thought Panera equals fresh made, that change matters. Nutrition-wise, Panera's own public guides list bagel and sandwich sodium numbers. Some sandwich combos served on bagels push sodium into the 700 to 1,400 milligram range once fillings are added. An individual pre-sliced Panera bagel sold in stores lists sodium roughly in the 300 to 350 milligram range depending on the variety. The main point, a single bagel plus fillings can very quickly reach levels that are risky for people on sodium-limited diets. In other words, the bread alone may look okay, but the final sandwich can be a high-salt meal. A whole grain label does not mean low sodium. Panera's whole grain bagel option is a better choice for fiber, yes. But if you add smoked salmon, egg, or sausage, the sodium math goes from acceptable to alarm. If a senior orders a whole grain bagel with egg and cheese and a side of soup, they might unknowingly double or triple the recommended single meal sodium amount. There's another angle: quality control and consistency. When a nationwide chain centralizes baking, supply becomes consistent, but mistakes at scale can spread faster. A wrong mix at a single plant can affect dozens of cafes in a region. That's why some longtime Panera bakers and customers pushed back when the company announced the production changes. Some workers said product texture and fresh-baked character already felt different at certain locations. Do you still call Panera fresh after hearing they're using par-baked dough? Or is fresh about the final bake and the steam? Pick a side below. Panera's whole grain bagel can be one of the safer chain options if you skip salty fillings. But the brand's move to par-bake and frozen dough means you can't assume fresh anymore. Look at the nutrition numbers. Expect the unexpected. Next, a giant chain whose bagels are cheap, accessible, and a headache if you count sodium. At number 6, Dunkin' Donuts Bagels. Dunkin' built its empire on coffee and quick breakfasts. Convenience is the tagline. For many people, that convenience works. But if you count sodium and consistency, convenience sometimes costs more than you think. Start with the menu math. Public nutrition entries put Dunkin's everything bagel sodium around the 600 to 630 milligram mark. One bagel often sits in the 600 range, depending on toppings and size. That's more than a quarter of the 2,300 milligrams daily limit, and a huge chunk if a doctor told you to aim for 1,500 milligrams. For anyone managing high blood pressure or kidney concerns, that number alone should ring an alarm. Dunkin' has made big moves on fats in the past. The company announced a reformulation to remove artificial trans fats more than a decade ago, which is good news. But removing trans fats didn't lower sodium. Customers still see bagels that are thin on bread and high on salt. Add a sandwich or cream cheese, and the sodium climbs fast. Quality control shows up differently here. There are numerous customer reports, viral social posts, and local articles about bagels arriving undercooked, over-toasted, or with giant hollow holes. One wave of social videos showed bagels with holes so large people joked they were Dunkin' bracelets. Those aren't health inspections, but they speak to inconsistent baking and portion control. For seniors who need predictable portions and reliable cooking, that inconsistency is a problem. There have also been wider supply/recall moves that affected Dunkin's bakery items. In early 2025, Dunkin' voluntarily recalled a set of baked goods in certain markets for quality reasons, showing that chain-scale pastry production sometimes hits snags that filter into stores. That's another reason to double-check what you buy for someone who needs very steady nutrition. If your bagel looks more like a donut hole collar than real bread, do you complain or just dunk it in coffee and move on? Tell us a recent Dunkin' miss. Dunkin's bagels are fast and cheap, and for many that's the point. But for older adults or anyone on a strict sodium plan, these bagels can add up quickly. Watch the labels and watch the size. And if the hole looks like it could host a bracelet, maybe skip the bagel and get the English muffin. At number 5, we have Thomas Bagels. You pick up a bag of Thomas and the box promises classic. The word feels safe, like something your mom would buy. But safety on the shelf doesn't mean the product is harmless for someone watching sodium or fragile kidneys. One pre-sliced Thomas's plain bagel lists roughly 440 to 450 milligrams sodium per bagel on public nutrition labels. That's about 19% to 30% of the 1,500 to 2,300 milligrams daily sodium ranges doctors often use as benchmarks. For an older adult whose doctor set a 1,500 milligram target, one Thomas's bagel can be nearly a third of the day's limit. Here's the practical problem. The brand is sold in supermarkets everywhere, so seniors reach for it thinking they're making a safe, neutral choice. But the sodium math adds up fast when you add cream cheese, smoked fish, or even a slice of cheese. A bagel sandwich can push a single meal well past 700 to 1,000 milligrams. If someone takes blood pressure meds or diuretics, that spike can show up on the clinic monitor the next time they see their clinician. Beyond the label numbers, there are real complaints you should know. Over the past few years, multiple consumer complaint sites and neighborhood forums have posted reports of sealed Thomas's packages arriving with mold. Customers in different states reported returning whole sealed packs that developed mold within days of purchase. These are individual consumer reports, not federal recalls, but they show product storage or shelf life inconsistencies that matter to someone buying groceries for an older person. If a product behaves unpredictably in a home pantry, that's not just annoying. It's a food safety risk. Imagine a bagel you trusted to be stable in your pantry turning into a food safety incident in 3 days. Then multiply that by every store in a neighborhood that stock rotates unevenly. That's a recipe for surprise doctor visits, not breakfasts. Texture and preservation. Commenters online also note that some packaged Thomas's bagels seem to resist molding for a long time, which at first sounds good, but can hint at heavy use of preservatives or packaging that keeps moisture out at the expense of freshness. Processed baked goods sometimes lean on preservatives and moisture control ingredients to extend shelf life. That's why some people say the product never seems to go bad. For seniors who prefer fewer additives, that's an unwanted trade-off. Would you accept a longer shelf life if it meant more preservatives? Or would you rather eat fresh once a week and avoid packaged bagels? Argue your side below. Thomas is everywhere, and that makes it easy to trust. But widespread availability plus consumer reports about mold and the bagel's relatively high sodium per serving make this a risky grab for people on strict diets. If you're shopping for someone on meds that monitor sodium, this is one to treat with caution. At number 4, we have New York Bagel and Coffee Company. You walk into a bright bagel counter and it looks exactly right. Steam, a baker in the window, a line of regulars. That scene is comforting, but local bagel shops sometimes hide a larger risk. A single failed health inspection can reveal unclean prep surfaces, poor hot holding temperatures, or missing hand washing stations. Things that directly affect food safety for anyone buying breakfast there. Local inspection databases show entries for bagel and coffee shops where hot TCS foods were not held at safe temperatures and hand-washing facilities were missing. And inspectors sometimes order follow-up visits. In plain terms, the place looked inviting, but it failed the basic tests that stop foodborne illness. Concrete numbers. Municipal inspection systems use thresholds. In New York City, for example, an A grade means 0 to 13 violations, while B and C mean far more. A single critical violation, like improper hot holding, can trigger rechecks and sometimes temporary closure. For seniors, a lapse like that matters. Improper hot holding can let bacteria multiply in prepared fillings, egg, fish, cream cheeses, that are commonly paired with bagels. The risk isn't dramatic in news headlines. It's quiet and cumulative. Examples that make it real. In recent years, several beloved New York area bagel spots made national headlines when inspections turned up rodent or pest activity or imminent public health hazards, forcing closures until problems were fixed. One high-profile local shop was ordered closed after inspectors found rodent presence and contamination, and the closure made national news. That's the kind of local failure that costs regular customers their trust and can expose vulnerable eaters to real contamination risks. You don't need a nationwide recall to be at risk. A single neighborhood shop with dirty prep surfaces can pass bad food into a whole block of customers before officials show up, and seniors who eat there regularly are the ones most likely to suffer. When the counter looks clean but the prep area isn't, aesthetics are lying. What to watch for on your next visit: posted inspection grades, clean prep surfaces in plain sight, staff using gloves and washing hands, and how the shop store's refrigerator refrigerated fillings. If those aren't visible, ask for the manager or skip the sandwich. Inspectors' reports are public. Use them. In many cities, you can look up a shop's last inspection and check for specific issues like temperature control failures or pest activity. If your favorite local bagel shop once failed an inspection but later passed, do you forgive and return, or is trust gone for good? Tell us which shops you'd never go back to. Local bagel counters can be gems, but they can also be the places where a small slip turns into a real health problem for a senior. Don't let charm outrun safety. Look at that placard before you order. Landing at number 3, we meet Einstein Brothers. If the plain bagel promises safety by looking simple, a specialty bagel promises fun. Blueberry, cinnamon raisin, chocolate chip. But those flavors often bring a hidden cost. Added sugars, flavor pieces, and moisture control ingredients that elevate sodium and introduce preservatives. Einstein Bros. Own ingredient lists for many specialty bagels show items like sugar, blueberry-flavored fruit pieces, molasses powder, dextrose, and natural flavor, plus small amounts of mold inhibitors or cultured flours listed in packaged versions. Those are legal, common ingredients, but they're also what pushes some flavored bagels into the processed column. Einstein Bros. Published nutrition guide lists sodium for several varieties. Everything bagels around 600 milligrams, cinnamon raisin near 490 milligrams, blueberry approximately 440 milligrams, and those are per bagel numbers. When you add cream cheese, egg, or smoked salmon, sodium and calories can quickly double. For older adults advised to keep sodium low, a flavored Einstein bagel plus standard toppings can become a meal that exceeds a safe single meal sodium target in one bite. Ingredient detail: packaged or take and toast versions of specialty bagels sometimes include mold inhibitors or preservatives for shelf stability, and manufacturers may use fruit-flavored pieces that contain added sugars and concentrates. The presence of ingredients labeled natural flavor or molasses powder is not an accusation. It's a flag that the item is engineered for texture and shelf life rather than simple, single-ingredient baking. For seniors who prefer minimal ingredient foods, that's a legitimate red flag. The smell of cinnamon or blueberry masks a laundry list of additives on the ingredient label. Taste that sweet bite and remember, flavor pieces and preservatives exist to make the product last and look the same in thousands of stores, not to help your blood pressure. Quality control and complaints. Large franchise chains like Einstein Brothers can have thousands of franchise operations, and that scale means uneven handling. There are documented inspection failures across various franchises, mold in coolers, contaminated prep surfaces, and many customer complaints about inconsistent product quality. Those variations matter more when the customer base includes older adults who rely on predictable nutrition. A flavored bagel that varies by location can be a small surprise for a healthy 25-year-old, but a big swing for a senior managing medications. Are specialty bagels worth the extra flavor if they add hidden sugar and additives? Or is a plain bagel with fresh toppings the smarter choice? Vote below. Einstein Bros. Makes craveable specialty flavors, but those flavors often arrive with hidden sugars, texture agents, and preservatives. If you care about sodium, additives, or ingredient simplicity, treat specialty bagels here like dessert, not daily breakfast. At number 2, we have got Lender's Bagels. Lender's built its name on frozen convenience. Affordable, widely available, ready to toast. One Lender's plain bagel typically lists around 420 to 430 milligrams sodium per bagel depending on the product and size, enough to register as a significant share of a low-sodium day. Lender's made bagels popular across supermarkets, institutional cafeterias, and pantries because they're cheap and predictable. But that predictability comes with consistent levels of sodium and processing that matter for someone on a strict diet. A historical note that matters: Lender's bagel business changed hands in 2020 when the brand's operations were sold as part of a larger corporate move. That sale changed distribution, manufacturing oversight, and who controlled shelf life decisions. Not a scandal, but it explains why products can vary between regions. When production shifts, formulation tweaks sometimes follow. For people buying for seniors, those supply chain moves are worth watching. Shelf life and complaints. Like other mass-produced frozen bagels, Lender's gets occasional reports on community forums of mold or package issues. Those posts are scattered, but they're worth noting because frozen or refrigerated products are usually expected to be stable. A handful of social posts and local complaints have called out mold or unexpected spoilage, which prompts customers to return items and ask for refunds. That pattern shows uneven quality control at retail or warehouse levels. Convenience and low price make Lender's a pantry staple, but convenience also means you're buying a consistent sodium hit every time you toast that bagel. If you eat 2 a day, you might be adding close to a full day's worth of sodium across those 2 bagels alone once you add spreads and eggs. Who this hits hardest? Seniors on hypertension or kidney regimens. For people who need 1,500 milligrams sodium or lower, 2 Lender's bagels plus a schmear and a piece of smoked fish could push their intake dangerously high. For those in charge of grocery shopping for elders, Lender's is an obvious convenience, but not an obvious health win. Would you pick frozen convenience over a half-hour trip to a bakery? Or is price and pantry life the deciding factor in your cart? Defend your choice below. Lender's gives you cheap, fast bagels the moment you want them, and a predictable sodium load in every bite. If you're shopping for someone with strict dietary needs, this is one to recheck before you toss it in the cart. Finally, at number 1, we have Einstein Bros. Everything Bagel. You bite into the classic Everything Bagel, and for a minute it's perfect. Sesame, onion, garlic, the crisp of seeds. Then you check the numbers and your appetite does a slow about face. A single Einstein Bros. Everything Bagel contains roughly 540 to 600 milligrams of sodium, depending on size and location. That's a big chunk of a daily limit most heart doctors track. If you add lox, egg, or a generous schmear, you can tack on another 400 to 700 milligrams easily from the toppings alone. In real terms, 1. Everything Bagel plus a standard lox and cream cheese combo can put a single meal well over many low-sodium targets. Here's the kitchen reality behind the number. Einstein Bros. Is a massive franchise network with thousands of outlets across airports, malls, and campuses. That scale means recipes are uniform, and that's useful. But scale also means a single handling mistake or a storage lapse can affect lots of customers quickly. There are documented local health inspections that singled out Einstein Bros. Outlets for problems like mold in coolers and other sanitation failures. Those are not nationwide scandals. They're local inspection reports that show even big names aren't immune to storage or protocol breakdowns. For seniors or anyone with fragile kidneys or controlled blood pressure, that's not a small detail. Imagine one warm round of bread that looks harmless but quietly pushes your daily sodium meter toward a red line, while also being made in an outlet that, in at least a few instances, failed basic storage checks. That's the double hit: nutrition and handling together. Why toppings matter more than people expect. Einstein Bros. Menu shows add-ons like smoked salmon, lox, that add about 650 milligrams of sodium by itself. Put that on a 540 milligram bagel, add cream cheese, and you've got a single sandwich that outpaces the sodium in many restaurant dinners. People on diuretics or AC inhibitors may see blood pressure swings after several days of high sodium meals. The bagel that felt light and simple becomes the thing that pushes readings up. Ingredient and flavor traps. Specialty mixes and flavored bagels often carry extra sugars, oils, and small preservatives to keep texture and color consistent. Those additives aren't illegal or mysterious. They keep menu items uniform across locations, but they shift a product from simple bread to processed bakery item. For older adults who try to minimize additives and hidden sodium, that matters. If you had to pick one bagel topping to ban forever, for health or taste reasons, what would it be? Lox, bacon, chili flakes, or industrially thick cream cheese? Pick one and defend it below. The Everything Bagel is a comfort classic, but for people watching sodium or using sensitive meds, one classic bite can be a clinic visit in the making. Read the nutrition panel, ask for lighter toppings, and if the counter looks sloppy, don't trust the aroma. Check the grade. Now, let's move to the safe options. The first actual safe option is Panera Bread Whole Grain Bagel. You want a chain option that's widely available, predictable, and easier to read on the nutrition panel. Panera's whole grain/multi-grain bagel options land in the approximately 410 to 460 milligrams sodium range per bagel depending on which item you pick, multigrain, flat, plain, whole grain style, and they often deliver a good fiber boost compared with white bagels. Think 7 grams fiber for a whole grain option listed on nutrition compendiums. Those numbers make Panera's whole grain choices a more sensible chain pick for seniors trying to balance fiber and sodium. Why this helps in practice. Whole grains add fiber and slow the carbohydrate spike, which is useful for blood sugar control. The sodium is still meaningful, but when you compare Panera's whole grain bagel to a flavored, preservative-heavy specialty bagel from a national bagel commissary, the Panera option often wins for clarity. Most menu stations have nutrition sheets, and you can order with rollbacks, no cheese, egg, whites only to shave off major sodium sources. In short, Panera gives you a predictable base that's easier to modify into a safer meal. Operational reality to know, Panera has made changes to its baking model in recent years, Some items are finished from par-baked/frozen supply lines at cafes. So fresh can mean freshly finished. That doesn't automatically make it unhealthy, but it's worth knowing so you keep asking for simple toppings instead of loaded sandwiches. A whole grain bagel at Panera, with a light spread and a side of fruit or eggs, is a reasonable chain-level compromise between convenience and health. Whole grain doesn't give you a free pass. If you stack smoked meat, sausage, and soup, the sodium math still stacks fast. But Panera gives you the controls: smaller bagel flat options, visible nutrition, and whole grain choices to reduce glycemic response. Would you pay $3 more for a clearly labeled whole grain bagel that cuts your sodium by a third, or is price and taste more important? Choose a side. Panera's whole grain bagel is not a miracle, but it's one of the cleaner chain options when you want fiber without mystery preservatives. Order simple, skip heavy toppings, and treat the whole grain bagel like the platform it is, not the full meal. The second recommendation is Brooklyn Bagel and Coffee Company. Picture a small New York-style shop, hand-rolled dough, kettle-boiled, a baker at the window. That's the model many authentic Brooklyn-style bagel shops follow, and it's the reason local picks often make the safe list. These shops typically bake daily, use fewer shelf-stabilizing preservatives, and advertise simple ingredient lists: unbleached flour, water, yeast, salt, maybe sugar. Examples in the NYC market: Brooklyn Bagel and Coffee Company and other long-running Brooklyn-style bakeries highlight hand-rolled, kettle-boiled processes and advertise minimal additives on their product pages and Goldbelly/ordering descriptions. Those operational choices reduce the need for texturing agents and some preservatives used in mass-produced frozen bagels. What that means for sodium and additives: independent bakeries can still use salt, and some toppings will be high sodium, but the ingredient lists are usually shorter and more transparent. Many local bakeries post nutrition or ingredient info on request and emphasize freshness, baked daily, no long shelf life. That approach both reduces the chance of heavy preservatives and gives you a cleaner label to read before you buy. If you choose a plain whole wheat or classic plain bagel from a hand-rolled shop, your sodium may be comparable to a chain plain bagel, but you often avoid some of the engineered texture agents and natural flavor catches found in larger-scale packaged options. Reality check: not every Brooklyn brand is low sodium. Some local menus show very high sodium numbers for certain flavored bagels or everything-style items. For example, an everything bagel at some water bagel shops can exceed 1,000 milligrams depending on how heavily they salt or seed it. The point: pick a plain or whole grain option, ask about ingredients, and look for shops that advertise no preservatives or baked daily. A real hand-rolled bagel still contains salt, that's part of the flavor. But when the ingredients list is short and you buy fresh, you cut down on hidden additives and long shelf-stable sodium/texture tricks. If you had to choose one local bagel shop to defend for authenticity, which would you pick and why? The crust, the chew, or the smell? Brag a little below. A true New York-style hand-rolled bagel, like those at Brooklyn Bagel and Coffee Company and other reputable local bakeries, is the best bet if you want fewer preservatives and better ingredient transparency. Still, read the menu, choose plain or whole grain, and treat toppings like the real sodium danger they are. Not all bagels are created equal. Some can silently harm your health. Subscribe now, and I'll show you which brands are truly safe, fresh, and worth eating every week.